Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the corner of the room where reality comes to die. I'm Pat Kansoer, and today we're talking about the eternal spring of free stuff and the youth. Specifically, why every fresh batch of 20-year-olds looks at the 20th century, sees a pile of 100 million skulls, and thinks, yeah, but they didn't have my Twitter account to organize it properly. It's a mathematical certainty. You turn 19, you read 3 pages of Marx, usually a quote on a tote bag, and suddenly you're an expert on the distribution of steel production. Every generation flirts with socialism or communism. It's like a developmental milestone right between getting a terrible tattoo and realizing that your degree in left-handed puppetry won't pay the rent. But why? Why does this ghost keep haunting us? First off, let's be fair. It's a marketing miracle. Socialism promises a world where everyone gets a trophy, a free oat milk latte, and a 3-hour work week composing interpretive poetry for the state collective. Who wouldn't sign up for that? If the professor in the corduroy jacket tells you that the only thing standing between you and a rent-free downtown loft is a handful of greedy corporate executives, that's an incredibly easy sell. It appeals to the natural, beautiful idealism of youth. And let's be completely honest, it appeals to the naturally beautiful desire not to get up at 6 a.m. to stare at a spreadsheet. The problem is that the modern student has the historical memory of the common fruit fly. Young people don't remember breadlines. They think the Iron Curtain is a chic industrial window treatment available at Bed Bath & Beyond. They look at capitalism's flaws, which are real, don't get me wrong. It's a messy, loud, deeply imperfect system. But then they blindly assume that the alternative must be a cozy, harmonious commune. They completely skip the part where every single time that a government is given total control over the economy, it magically stops being about sharing and starts being about, comrade, get in the kettle car. It turns out when you give the state the absolute power to distribute everything, you also give them the absolute power to withhold everything. But hey, why let a little thing like the entirety of modern history ruin a perfectly good vibe? Take a breath. We'll be back to the next part immediately. Now we need to talk about the Viking mirage and Denmark and Sweden and Norway. Because the moment you point out to our young Marxist light friends that Russia or the PRC isn't exactly a vacation paradise, they'll instantly yell, yeah, but what about Scandinavia? Ah, yes, that magical Nordic wonderland where the rivers flow with organic lingonberry juice and the IKEA furniture assembles itself with no screws left over. Here's the grand irony that makes my morning coffee taste just a little bit better. Scandinavia is not socialist. I know that's shocking. Sit down, pour a glass of Perrier, and hold on to something to steady yourself. The Scandinavian model is actually a hyper-efficient, cutthroat, capitalist engine wearing a very thick, fleece, fuzzy sweater. They didn't fund their massive social safety net by seizing the means of production. They funded them by letting corporations run wild, make a mountain of cash, and then taxing the absolute daylights out of everyone. And when I say everyone, I mean everyone. Our local campus radicals think taxing the rich means making billionaires buy fewer yachts. In Denmark, the top income tax bracket kicks in at about 1.2 times the average income. That means that the guy fixing your leaky faucet is paying over 50% in income tax. And oh yes, let's not forget the VAT, that's the value added tax, what we call sales tax. That's a lovely 25% sales tax on basically everything you buy. Want a sandwich? That'll be $25. 20 for the sandwich and 5 for the government's collective guilt fund. They built a massive, sturdy house of capitalism first, accumulated a hoard of wealth that would make a dragon blush, and then decided to buy everyone health care and free college. If you try to build a safety net without the roaring capitalist engine underneath, you don't get Denmark. You get a bankrupt state where the only thing free is the disappointment. But sure, let's just copy the model without checking the price tag. What could possibly go wrong? Now, I'm going to wrap this up by looking at the scale problem, or we'll start with a map and a calculator, two things heavily suppressed in utopian literature. Even if we agreed that the Scandinavian model is the holy grail, there is a tiny microscopic flaw in importing it to the United States, and that is basic math. Norway has about 5.5 million people. Denmark has 6 million. Sweden has 10. Combine the entire Nordic region, and it has fewer people than the state of Texas. Finland is basically a giant forest with a population the size of New York City, except they have better eye contact and fewer rats. Now, when you've got a tiny, homogeneous population where everyone looks alike, shares the exact same cultural values, and is probably related to the local tax collector's cousin, guess what? There's high trust. People don't mind paying 50% taxes because they trust the government isn't going to burn the money in a giant pit. Corruption is low because if the prime minister steals a euro, his aunt will find out on Sunday at dinner and beat the snot out of him with a wooden spoon. Now let's look at the good old US of A. We have 340 million people spread across a continent, featuring every culture, language, and political grudge known to mankind. Trust in government? We don't even trust the expiration date on a milk carton. Our current systems are already a masterpiece of bureaucratic comedy. We have waste, fraud, and mismanagement is elevated to an art form. If the US government tried to run a nationalized Scandinavian safety net, we wouldn't get high-speed trains and free daycare. We'd get a $1 trillion committee tasked with studying how to open a door, which would somehow end up accidentally funding a warlord in a country we can't pronounce. Could it ever work here? Is it practical? Only if you completely overhaul the American psyche. You'd need to convince the average American to happily watch a quarter of their paycheck vanish at the grocery store checkout line. And you'd have to fix a federal bureaucracy that currently spends 20 grand on a toilet seat. But before I leave, I just received an instant message piece of fan mail. Let's see here. Braden from the local community college writes, "Pat, you dinosaur. Under true communism, we wouldn't even need money or bureaucrats. We'd just barter our skills. I'm a certified tarot reader and a level 4 vegan wizard. What's wrong with a society built on mutual vibes?" Well, Braden, thanks for writing on that. What's wrong with it is that when winter freeze hits the municipal water pipes and they burst, Nobody can fix it with a tarot card reading or a level 4 vegan spell. Someone actually has to get down into the freezing mud with a wrench. And historically, when the vibes run out, the guys with the Kalashnikovs show up to make sure you turn the wrench for free. So, my young friends, marching in the streets, God bless you for your optimism. It's adorable. But until you can figure out how to get the Department of Motor Vehicles to renew a driver's license in under 4 hours, maybe hold off on letting them manage the entire economy. It's just a thought from a guy who likes his grocery store shelves filled. I'm out of here.